Hello guys, happy Saturday to you guys. Been a long week and here we are. I'm catching up again. Things have been not going as well as planned, but we're getting back on track, so I think actually after the next couple of videos, I'll actually probably start doing a couple of the non-challenge video types. I want to get back to my normal spiels because I do have a couple ideas that I'm going to be working on. Hopefully Wednesday I'll probably have my altar all re-established for Astara, so I'll probably have a fun, probably cute, kind of short little tour for you guys, along with a couple of discussions about a couple other things that will remain sacred until then. But here we are back on week 7. And week 7, I feel like I haven't been wanting to do it, mostly because I've been kind of mulling it over in my head, like how do I say what I want to say about week 7's topic, which is sacred texts, and it's a complicated subject because, like I said before, I've grown up in a Christian household. Which for me meant that the only sacred text there ever was is the Bible. The many hundreds of versions of it. But my mom has recently actually kind of veered away from, she's gone through several path changes, which I can identify with and I accept and I love about her, is that she's constantly on a spiritual path herself. But recently, her newest venture into knowledge, as she would probably call it, is she's actually been studying with Mormons. And, you know, they have their own, the Book of Mormon is their sacred text. And, you know, we know that Muslims have the Quran, and, you know, the Jews have the Torah. And where does that leave us? I mean, we have history. We have, you know, books that are handed down that teach us about our history. We have books about witch trials, we have books about herbs, we have all of these kind of anthologies about things rather than an actual text. Like, there isn't one book to rule them all, in a sense, because there's so many different paths involved, there's so many different branches of our kind of very mishmashy lives here, which for me leads to not really having any sacred texts that I consider that are important enough to consider sacred. The only thing I would say is my Book of Shadows would be the most sacred text, and only because I make it sacred. And I've been hearing this a lot in a lot of videos that I think it was Molly from Her Speak, she said that something is only sacred when you make it sacred. And I've seen Jenny Love and a couple other people have brought up this complete concept themselves in their own videos about this subject. Because we really don't have, we have Scott Cunningham books, we have Aleister Crowley, we have, there are, considered, I don't think we consider them, actually being sacred, but we have the texts, like we have the books that you start out with, the books that you read that lead you down your path, but they're not, none of us identify to it like a Bible or the Torah or the Quran like other religions do, which leaves it very much to us to find what our beliefs are, which can do two things to me. On one hand, it gives us a lot of freedom. There's, we're opened up to being able to study whatever we want. We can dabble in so many things. We can learn new things. We can study. We can enhance or detract, or we can explore so much more than you would if you necessarily subscribe to one exact closed religion. That doesn't really happen with, if you're Christian, you have one book and that's basically it. You might have versions of it that you consider to be better than others, but since we don't have those things, we have the chance to explore. On the other hand, it kind of gives us nothing to jump off with. If you're brand new, you find yourself, as I see most young witches find themselves like, what do I read? What do I do? Where do I find who's right? I've actually been asked that a couple times with a couple women that I've encountered over time that either have shown interest in wanting to learn, wanted my opinion, or were just curious about what I do. They were like, well, what's right? What guy is right? What do I read to know exactly what you believe? And honestly, there isn't anything that you can read to tell you that will tell you exactly what I believe unless you ask me, in which case I'd have to write my own book, which maybe someday I will. But it would encompass so much that it wouldn't necessarily be worth it. I mean, you don't really need a book that tells you everything that I feel. You can just ask me, and I'm very open, which is partly why I started the YouTube channel. I decided it was time to have a discussion, I was ready to reach out and get to know people and put out what I want to say. I don't think I need to write it down necessarily for anybody, except for myself, in my own sacred book. I mean, that's what that's for. At the same time, I don't discourage anyone from reading at all, because it seems to be a very common theme among us that we are book hoarders. I have rarely found a book I didn't want to at least look at and read. Maybe I didn't buy it because I didn't have the money at the time, but that doesn't mean I don't save it mentally or save it on my Amazon list or Rare Books or whatever to find it later, because I do. But in that sense, the only thing that can give you an idea of what's going to make something sacred for you is really your own opinion. And is you going out there and saying, what do I think? And, we're always telling newbies that, you don't listen to me necessarily, listen to your heart. Do what you believe is right. Do what makes you happy. Do the path that you feel the most connected to. But that also, like I've said, leaves you with no direction whatsoever. And I know that you guys, I remember being a newbie, and I remember being like, well, what do I do? And the first thing I did was pick up a book. I don't even think it was a Scott Cunningham book. It was just a book. And it taught me what I needed to know, and it led me to read other books, because, I would like, well, I don't really like that, so let's move on and find something else. And that's the only way you're gonna learn. That's the only way you're gonna find your sacred text. That's the only way you're gonna build your sacred text. That's the other thing, because if you take it, as Molly said, that nothing is sacred until you make it sacred, your book is not sacred until you add to it. So you might buy this beautiful journal and you might think it's awesome, but it doesn't have anything worth in it if you don't write in it, if you don't make it yours, if you don't make it sacred. And I have to admit that I have gone through several books of my own making, because I find myself changing so much that I've never put it in a permanent book. I have a book, which I won't show you because it looks like crap, but has things all over it. And one of my thoughts is maybe this summer I will compile it into an actual book. Not just sheets of paper stuck in together, not just ideas jotted down, organize it, because I'm an organized person, but I don't have it where I want it. So right now, my Book of Shadow is not really necessarily, it's the closest thing to sacred as I have, but it's not really there yet. I want to make one that's more my personality, more sacred, more artistic, more adult. The one I have is like a spiral bound journal that I just stick things in, as I see fit. But someday I want to take all of those things and put them into an actual piece of art, really, that I can have as an heirloom. And the other thing I have, that it's going to sound really strange, but I kind of find Tumblr on my phone to be the next closest thing to finding sacred texts, and I'll tell you why. Because I can save things as soon as I see them. And I can go back through all my likes and I can put those into my book if I want to. If anything, I have like a little mobile book of shadows right there in my Tumblr. And I'm not trying to advertise for it, of course, or say, hey, follow me on Tumblr or anything, but, you know, that is one way that I honestly have been able to keep up with things. And, I mean, if you see this, I have, like, almost 9,000 likes. Granted, I have two different kinds of blogs that I do a lot with, but, you know, I just go through and I like things that I like, and let me see if I can find anything related to this. But there it is, you know, it's right there, like, right here I have a little post that I liked, you can see, and it tells you when there's a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse, so I won't miss them out this month. I'll get to go out there and I'll find them and I will see them. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't, oh, I also have a cookies, but if it weren't for that, I wouldn't have a way to remember those things, unless I, like, went and grabbed some paper and wrote it down, but I'm not, who am I kidding? If I have my phone, I probably don't have paper with me. I'm probably on my commute or walking around or sitting at home in my house. Like, that's just how it is. It's not likely, which, you know, technology can be sacred for you. So, those are my 2 sacred texts. These are my thoughts and feelings on it. Let me know what you guys think, because I always like to hear from you guys. I don't often, but it's always fun to like my video if you liked it, dislike it if you hated it. I'll be seeing you very soon. Love you guys. Bye-bye.